Good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the Fairmont School Board. It is Tuesday, September 11, 2018. Roll call is, we have a couple board members absent. We don't have a quorum as of yet, but we can continue with the non-vote requiring activity. So please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and minutes from last time.
I don't think
no,
we
no,
can.
we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
So
Those
we'll
and-
just,
yeah.
we're not going to approve the agenda. We'll just go to celebrations.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for having us tonight. We're excited to share some of the learnings that we've taken place at the junior senior high school over the summer and some different things that we're trying to move forward as a collective unit with our teachers and most importantly for our students going in to the current school year. One of the things we're going to start with is really our year in review, and not so much our year but almost our summer in review and what brought us to this point to really give us a momentous start into the school year. And really our work that we're currently entrenched in really began in the 2016-17 school year, all the way back to doing research, development, site visits at different places in the state to really set a vision for where we wanted to go as a school. And then last school year, in the 17-18 school year, we really hit the ground running with a lot of different focal points, a lot of things that were new to our staff, new to our students, but really got a lot of positive feedback from different entities and what we were moving forward with. Things like flexible learning, personalized learning, flexible learning spaces, standards-based grading, all of those things that are really helping us drive towards these 21st century learning skills that we really work to develop within our school district strategic plan. And with that, a lot of it throughout the last school year was really focused on developing why these concepts are important. As an administrative team, we did the book study by Thomas Friedman, Thank You for Being Late, and he talks on many levels of the rapid pace at which our society changes in ensuring that our students have those skills. I recently read an article published with citations of Mark Cuban and Elon Musk, very wealthy investor as well as an entrepreneur with the Tesla brand. And one of the things that they alluded to is that our students moving into the future really need the creativity piece of the 4 C's. You'll read a lot of other articles that talk about complex critical thinking skills being one of the #1 things that our students have to have. So those two things combined are really what helps set our vision when we look at these things that we're putting in front of our students as a collective team with our teachers to drive their learning forward. Then again this summer, for the second year in a row, we had 11 teachers, including Mrs. Niss and myself, that went to the Personalized Learning Summit in Chanhassen and really had a great collaborative event there with teachers throughout the state that are trying to move the notion of giving students more voice and choice in their learning and creating more flexibility to really meet individual learner needs. And that really gave us a lot of momentum moving into this school year. And one of the things that both of us are going to touch on here is the idea of being intentional in what we're doing and making sure that implementation is in place. And then, as I referenced, our school district strategic plan is something that Kim and I talk about a lot, and making sure that what we're doing is aligned with that work. We put a lot of time and effort as a board, as a community, as a school, into making sure that is where it needed to be. And so we try to connect as much of what we do as possible to those 10 goals there. 2 of the focus areas, just to highlight, one is in the area of student support. in developing and implementing a sustainable and well-defined support system that enables all learners to achieve at their highest ability. Regardless of their learning abilities or their learning needs, we want to challenge them to be at their best. And then the idea, the final category that's on the strategic plan of the 21st century district in school transformation, with a focus on maximizing student achievement in a personalized learning environment. And I think that's something universal. Any school district would agree that you want to maximize student achievement. And so Kim's now going to go a little deeper into a couple of the things that we've spent a substantial amount of time in over the summer to really make sure that we have a solid platform in place for our teachers and, most importantly, our students.
All right, so I'm going to stick to a script here because I think I could go off in many, many directions. So I'm going to try to stay focused here by reading off a script. But on the TV there, you can kind of see our focus area of student support with an emblem there of MTSS, which stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. That was a lot of the work we did this summer. And then on the other side there with the 21st Century District School, that is the Personalized Learning Honeycomb. So I'm going to kind of talk about them separately, and then the connections that they hold between each other, because the connections are great between the two of them. So with our student support focus that was identified in the strategic plan, that created our MTSS, which again is the multi-tiered system of supports. That vision for our site, while the focus of the 21st Century District transformation has continued our work towards I can't even read my script. Our work moving towards a personalized learning environment focused on the 4 C's of communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. I will talk again about each separately and then connect the two in terms of guiding our work this year. So slide number 5 there, that is the honeycomb model that we really studied a lot last year. So in reviewing that, we have used that as our key resource in the implementation of personalized learning. Last year with staff, we really focused on the why and the what of personalized learning. And this year, we're really going to dive into the how. Last year, we also centered on the 3 central elements of the honeycomb. So right in the middle, and I know you can't read that, but the 3 central, and they're the core elements of personalized learning, is customized learning paths, learner profiles, and proficiency-based progress. It will move out from the center this year while still holding true to those core elements. We'll go deeper with those. But some of those supporting elements that, again, it's difficult for you to see, will include, and again, these will be some of our focus areas, on personalized learning goals, assessment as evidence of learning, learning readiness based groupings, timely actionable feedback, learner choice, learner voice, and conferring and conferencing, and that will not only happen in the classroom, but also during our huddle time implemented as well. The 7th and 8th grade will continue with standard graded learning, which is one of those yellow elements up there, and Mr. Tradle will discuss that later with you, along with a plan to support our teachers through this implementation of personalized learning to ensure that our classrooms are being transformed. I love that Kelly Holstein, the Minnesota Teacher of the Year and Fairmont graduate, told staff when she spoke to us that she has implemented personalized learning in her own classroom and feels like a new teacher again, as it does transform the classroom and the role of the student and the teacher. The elements for me that really begin to disrupt the status quo of education include the flexible time and space, and then getting to the point where the learners are the co-designers of their assessment along with their learning. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done first to move those elements of the honeycomb, and we are working to lay that groundwork this year. As for the MTSS process, so this here, and again, that's very small for you, but just to give you an idea of what that is a hyperdoc that the team created this summer for our staff to use. We're using this at the junior, senior high school. And with MTSS, again, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Supports. So a team of K through 12 staff met 5 times this summer to create our district support system to work towards assurance that all students can learn at their highest level. From this work, the hyperdoc was created for staff and shared with them at our back to school opening session. The document includes at the top, the very top there, that kind of are the breads say to the MTSS symbol. They really kind of identify the two big overarching principles of MTSS. And one of them is relentless communication home is needed at all levels and at all tiers that focus on the relentless communication home is needed, and that connects also to one of the elements of personalized learning of engaged families. So really ensuring that we are engaging our families both in the process of personalized learning and MTSS. We'll also talk about some new communication tools being implemented this year to also connect to this. In understanding the tiers of MTSS, when we talk about the tiered systems, MTSS, and again, we used to call this RTI, this is response to intervention, and that was always based on the triangle. And the triangle had 3 tiers as well. The first tier really is work done entirely in the classroom. It is based on the teacher using the best instructional practices to ensure the targeted level of achievement for all students in the class. Research that we know about with RTI and MTSS really say that instruction in that tier 1 should reach 80% of the students that you have in your classroom based on those best instructional strategies. The second tier is needed for about 15% of the students who need sometimes just more time and more intensive instruction to be able to achieve the learning goals. So what we're using, and so is the elementary, is universal screeners. So we give the FastBridge assessment each fall, winter, and spring, and then also the MCA. So we use that data to determine who our tier 2 students are. So that's the data that identifies those students in the tier 2. So at the junior senior high school, we have set up our system to support these students during the day using our online learning lab, wellness classes at 7th, 8th, and 9th grades, and then through our FAST setup that we have each Thursday. And then tier 3 is defined as a special education tier when the work in the classroom and additional time and support is still not meeting the needs of our students, so we would look to refer them possibly to special education. So the next slide here that I'll have Andy move to is this is the tier. The tier that I really want to focus on is our tier 1. Because that's the tier that has just a strong connection to personalized learning. As an MTSS team, we determined to focus on the formative assessment cycle to be fully implemented within all of our classrooms and focus our training and support on this. So you can see from the diagram there, and again, it's very, very small, that this begins by clearly, the first step of that whole process begins by clearly identifying the learning target with the student. With the learning target being clearly articulated and explained to the students can also use this knowledge to create their personal learning goals, which that's coming from the honeycomb. And then adjust the goal as they proceed through their learning. And the adjustments come through the feedback they receive from their teacher. The next step then of the cycle is to intentionally select the aligned assessment to gather information regarding the student learning. That is a formative assessment that guides the teacher and the student with the next steps of the learning progression of the intended goal. The teacher will then use the strategy called pile, stack, and sort, where they take the formative assessment and pile them into categories. And oftentimes the categories are who gets it and needs extension, who got it with some errors but maybe just needs some more practice, and who does not get it and needs reteaching. The final phase of the formative assessment cycle is for the teacher to identify if this is a whole class or a majority of the class that needs reteaching, or if they need to create small group instruction based on the need identified from the formative assessment for each individual student, again in small groups. We are starting the year focusing on support and training centered around learning targets and success criteria. Brooke Schultz, our PLC coordinator, will be training all of the PLC leaders to take back to their PLCs, and then we'll also support the training with our faculty focus time on Friday mornings and our observation process using the Danielson rubrics. Our teacher coaches, Alex and Jody, will also support this work when they work with the teachers. So the formative assessment cycle and the the formative assessment cycle, which has been identified as our tier 1 work through the MTSS process, and our journey to personalized learning is extensive. The connections between them is demonstrated on the slide. So what I did is I put the formative assessment cycle there on the left, and then I just pulled out some of the elements from the honeycomb that are directly aligned to that work of the formative assessment cycle. So we were very excited when we were doing the MTSS work this summer, and then we went up to the Personalized Learning Summit, and we just saw just a huge connection between the work we were doing here in Fairmont to what we were hearing at that summit as well. So as you know, this work is not new to us. We have been working on formative assessment and its process for many years now. We know what works in our classrooms regarding student achievement, and you know what works as well. What we need to do is to ensure that we are intentional in our planning and prep and in the creation of our units for our students. And we also need to ensure implementation across all levels and grades within our building. We know what we need to do. We need to ensure we implement, and this will be our focus, and Mr. Tradle will extend on that idea of implementation and intentionality.
When we think, when Kim mentions the formative assessment feedback loop, I remember back, it was about 7 years ago, we had our first really focused professional development day focused on the formative assessment piece and different ways that teachers can engage at that in their classroom. It goes way back beyond that, but that was really the infancy of our focus on that work. And so when we talk about being intentional in our implementation and making sure that things are getting done the way that they need to. One of the things that was really neat at our back to school session when we had all staff together is we asked them to reflect on some of the different things that we were discussing and focusing on moving into this school year. And as teachers shared from their tables, it was great to hear the confidence that they exuded by being able to make the connections between some of the different focal points and really feeling like last year, there were a lot of new things put in front and really challenging our way of thinking and the way we look at education. And this year, really just lasering in and getting that laser focus on those same things, but making those connections more meaningful for our teachers. And one of the things that we look at, too, Douglas Reeves is a leading researcher in the field of education, and he talks about 90% implementation to have an effect on student achievement. And he talks about different levels of implementation. If teachers are never do it, seldom do it, really you get the same effect. It's when that mass majority gets on board and really starts driving those focus points forward that you really see the marked difference in student achievement. So that's our goal this year, is to really make sure we're intentional in everything we do with our planning and our purpose to get that implementation to a level that can maximize its effect on student achievement. Several ways just to highlight how we're going to support our teachers throughout the school year. That was another thing that came up in a lot of our work with the strategic plan, is to make sure we have a consistent approach to support our teachers, so we're not putting things in front of them for one day and then leaving them to their own devices. But through our district and site professional development in October, the Monday after our EM break, we have the Kagan strategies training coming in that really focuses on how do we use our student information to best design our learning to meet the needs of our students. At the junior senior high school, we'll have a personalized learning in service the Tuesday in November prior to our break there, our mid-November break. And then in February, we're going to have a vertical alignment in service that's early childhood through 12th grade, so that we can work in content-based groups as well as across curricular areas to make sure what we're doing is aligned throughout our district to continue to move our kids forward. Several of the other things, I don't need to read through all of them. Kim alluded to some of them with our peer observation process, our staff meetings, just to continually put these things in front of our staff and give them the opportunity to communicate what supports they need to move things forward. So one of the last things we just want to showcase here, again, from the focus area of communications, marketing, and partnerships, some of the things we're doing to really solidify our communication processes in our building, to create that coordinated, effective, and safe communication process throughout the school district and community. So I'm going to move away from the mic here for a second to get to the computer to open up a website, and then I'll come back so I can explain what we're showing. So one of the things that we've done this year is the 7th and 8th grade teachers have really done a good job of identifying from parent feedback some of the things that we can do to streamline our communicative processes. And one of the things that we got from parents last year with different updates on learning is they really enjoy getting emails from the teachers with what's going on in the classes, but when they get 7 different emails, sometimes they get lost in the shuffle and they're picking and choosing which ones are of most importance to them at that time. So one of the things that we've done is created a grade 7 and 8 parent and student website. In the first tab up there that says weekly updates, one of the things that does is there's a 7th grade learning and weekly update and an 8th grade. So if we click on the 7th grade learning and weekly update, what the teachers have is a document that shows by teacher. So the first one you see there is English 7. So that's Mrs. Schultz. What she's done is the first column is past learning, current learning, future learning, and then a weekly update. So our teachers will, in some form, give our parents a weekly update. But what this does is it puts it all in one document, in one place, so they can see what's going on in all of their classes with just a couple clicks. So they're not being inundated. Some of our teachers will still send the emails. We also presented this to our parents at our 7th and 8th grade orientation on August 29th at our back to school night, so they could see how that can be used. In addition, on the website, the next tab is classrooms. If we go to the 8th grade this time, that's all right. So the teachers, all their classroom websites will be linked there to take the teachers directly to there with all their contact information, their syllabi, their the best time of day to contact them, their course expectations, those different things. If you then the next one is different resources. So these are different presentations that we've done. You'll see our school calendar is on there. Our junior, senior high school testing dates are on there. The slideshow from our 7th and 8th grade orientation is on there. Our grading parameters, expectations and policy review that Mrs. Lardy did with all the 7th and 8th graders, so on and so forth. And then the final tab, standards and assessment. There's a link there to the Minnesota teaching and learning standards if parents are inclined to do some research there, as well as information on standards-based grading for 7th and 8th grade. So when you go there and scroll down, you see the specified, once it loads here, the detailed explanations of what the different standards-based grading marks are. So far the feedback that we've got from the parents that have looked at this, it is linked on our school district website under junior, senior high school. There is a link that takes you directly to the website, and our parents have gave a lot of good feedback in the initial rollout of that. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Kim. She's going to share with you a student site that's been created for our 9 through 12 students.
All right, so this is a communication tool that we'll be sharing with the students on Thursday this week. I'll be meeting with all the 9th through 12th grade students, but I worked with a student council this summer. Last year I had created a hyperdoc for the students similar to the staff hyperdoc that we use, and it was not phone friendly. And so the students really weren't using it because it has to be phone friendly, I realized, because that's where they're really gonna look at that information. So we made sure that this particular site is phone friendly. But what I did is I really had taken all the information from the site last year, or the hyperdoc last year, and put it into a Google site. And on the home page here, it really just kind of tells the students this is a communication hub. And then the student council asked for some links to some of their the things they would want quick. So e-pass, the lunch menu, the daily announcements, anytime we have an altered schedule, and then just some just quick facts there at the bottom of that page. And then across the top, there's 3 tabs that basically says help, get involved, and stay informed. And so then under each one of those tabs, under the help, that's where if students would need help with anything, so like we have information about our math center, our writing center, put some internet resources there that students could go to. Office staff, as an office, we put together a presentation or a PowerPoint basically that just introduces who we are and how we can help the kids. So if they are feeling like they need help anywhere, we put our bullying report there, so that would be a way that they can anonymously report bullying and get more information on that. And then under the Get Involved, that really includes all of the activities that we would offer through extracurricular, through our student clubs. We have a community tab there, so if the communities have an activities that our kids could be part of, we'll put that information there. And then the Stay Informed is really a collection of, can you go to the Stay Informed one, Mr. Trado? Like theirs would be the student announcements. The student council had asked, could we just have one place for us to find all of the staff's email? So we just did staff email there. So anything that they would need information on, counseling has a tab there. The student advisory will have a tab there. Flexible learning, the juniors and seniors, when I met with them, I'll put all of that information there. So we're just really gonna push this out to kids to use if they need to know anything. I've also informed the students, and it's right there in kind of on the home page that really talks about if you're looking for something and it's not on here, to please let me know so that we can add it for them. And so when the students open up their Chromebooks at the junior, senior high school, that's the page that it opens up to. So it's constantly in front of them. And then just the other thing for this year that we did, our teachers, we're really working with them on their web pages to ensure that our web pages contain what our parents have asked that they contain. So like one of them is to have a syllabus for each of the class on there. So we did teachers did a peer review of each other's website at the opening, one of the opening sessions, and they provided feedback then to the website they reviewed. And now we've given staff or the teachers the time to make those updates, and then we'll bring it back this Friday at Faculty Focus, and we'll have them look at their own website to make sure it contains what it needs to, and then we'll kind of go over that too. So just again, some new and improved communication tools for this year. So that's kind of our, your short meeting just went.
The huddle.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So huddle, and I'll talk from a 9 through 12 because it looks a little bit different between 9 and 12 and 7 and 8. So the 9 through 12 huddle is a mixture. So we took our Cardinal Academy and our advisory time last year and made it into the huddle. And what huddle stands for is helping us develop dedication, leadership, and enthusiasm. And it's mixed groups, so there's about 16 students, 4 from each grade. Within the groups. Every day at 2:51, when 7th hour is done, then a bell rings, they pass to their huddle time, and they really finish the day, their 15 minutes with their huddle advisor. And then during the huddle time, for the first couple of weeks, we've really just focused it on them getting to know one another, because really they're a mixed group. They're with people that they don't know their names of, and so just getting to know each other, creating that community, and doing some team building activities. That's what we've been doing the first couple of weeks. And then starting next week, what we'll do is on Mondays and Tuesdays, the advisor for each group will do kind of a coaching session with 2 students each day. So about once a month, they'll have kind of a one-on-one coaching session with the advisor where they'll, look at Skyward, talk about their learning goals. We have a rubric that identifies 6 areas of mindset, and use that kind of in the conversation. So that'll be Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, they will sign up for their fast sessions that will take place on Thursday, and then Thursday we'll just run fast. We will not have a huddle. And then on Friday, the huddle will be more where we do our all-school activities. I have a book called Grit. It's Mr. Brown's book from Cinder Kamphoff. Beyond Grit. And there's lessons in there that really develop her 10 key things that everybody needs. And so we'll do one lesson of those a month, and we'll also focus on some top 20 ideas as well. So that's what huddle looks like at 9 through 12. Did you have a question on that before 7 and 8?
Nope.
Okay.
So seventh and eighth grade is largely similar. It's an extension of their seventh period. So our students, we removed a transition during the day. The 9th through 12th graders have a 5-minute transition period from their last class to their huddle group. So the 7th and 8th grade huddle groups, they stay with their 7th hour teacher. And then the focal point there, we've done the same team building activities, really relationship building focus these first couple weeks. And then Monday through Wednesday, our 7th and 8th graders will go through the coaching cycles to increase that one-on-one contact with the teachers at those early grades. And then as well as the students that are not conferencing will focus on building reading stamina during that time through continued reading practice. And then on Fridays, the focus for the 7th and 8th graders will be using the second step curriculum, which is a focus on building social emotional capacity in our kids. For example, the first unit, the topic is developing a growth mindset and how that applies to teaching and learning. So very, a similar time of day structure, but just a little bit different focal points to meet the needs of the kids at the various age levels.
You guys have any questions? Personalized learning. Well, first of all, a lot of good work that's been done. Fairly elaborate, it seems like complicated structure to hopefully ensure success. But for the families listening, for the kids, I mean, what is personalized learning? What's the goal? What is the pinnacle of personalized learning that you saw at the conference? I mean, what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah, I'll start and then I'll let Kim finish. When we think of personalized learning, it's really an idea or a notion. It's not so much a thing. It's hard to put a tangible, put it in a box because it is personalized to the learners is the ideal goal. And one of the things we look at is by the time our students finish their 6 years in the junior senior high school, and more importantly, their 13 to 14 years, hopefully, in our entire school system, that they graduate Fairmont High School having the learning capacity to no longer have to depend on us for their learning. That they've been given the opportunity to learn and be challenged and make mistakes while the consequences are affordable so that they can learn from them and have that capacity with the learning skills that they need to move beyond the walls of our school system into their adult lives and be successful there. And then, when we were at the conference, we heard a lot about really that focus, and that's really our discussion, our reflective practices with our teachers, that idea of being intentional in our implementation and really focus on using the information that we have on students to really drive our planning and our feedback that we're giving the learning process. So end game is to really make sure our kids have the skills that they need to be successful beyond. And I'll let Kim elaborate, unless you have a question.
No, go ahead.
Question. Okay.
I guess the two for me in terms of end game that are most exciting to me is that customized learning path, and that really pace is not controlled by seat time or having to be in a class within 47 minutes. And so when the students, and then that also kind of combines with the learners being the co-designers of their learning, and then also of how they're going to show that they are proficient within the learning goals. And I know that's scary. I know some of the teachers at the conferences, when parents hear that, they sometimes think that as a school district we're just going to say, okay, here you go. But it's a very transfer. It's a very deliberate transfer of that to the students. So there's steps that you do. You don't just say, here you go, and here you need to learn this. That's not at all what personalized learning is. The students are so aware of what they need to learn that when you get further on in the personalized learning, the learner can conference with the teacher and say, this is how I want to show my learning. This is the direction I want to go. That's like, to me, in game. But we got to lay all this groundwork first, and then to get to that the path, where the student could they finish English 10 in a semester? Yep, they can. Now, what are we going to do? And so, like, as a staff, it's exciting to me that we're having those conversations, and those are the problems now we need to figure out how to solve.
So if a student proposes that I'd like to complete calculus in a semester or world history in a semester,
Yep.
who do they talk to?
Well, I think they would start with teacher, you know, because they're going to have that conferencing, conferring, that relationship, talk with the teacher. And, you know, and that also comes up with the setup of the units. We saw and I think Mr. Trado and I were at the same session, but it showed kind of how they set their units up that did allow the students to continue to move on when they were ready to move on. And so, you know, that needs to be done first. That unit design and unit plan needs to be done first, where again, it's not just the student going off learning on their own. So that's a lot of the upfront work from the teacher perspective. But once let's say the teacher has that all set up and the teacher gets all the way through it, you know, then that would be a student-teacher conversation of, okay, now what? You know, and if then that comes to us as a whole group, a whole staff, or if there's a group of teachers that want to say, we want to figure this out, how do we do this? You know, that's where I envision kind of that happening and in the direction of that moving.
You know, in terms of students learning on their own, I think we're going to see more and more of that as we go forward, because I'm continually impressed with the amount of online learning material that's available. There's a whole PBS YouTube channel called Crash Course.
Yeah.
And you can learn independently physics or biology or world history. And, you know, I've listened to, you know, my daughter go through some of the material, and it's very sophisticated. Mm-hmm. And so we need to learn how, as a district, to allow students to, you know, to venture forth on their own, mm-hmm. and then we just need to make sure that they can demonstrate mastery of the material.
Right.
And so it's totally out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to really push the envelope and make sure that we can utilize all of this great information that's available to help our teachers, to create a tremendous learning environment for the kids.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, and Sam Wieselman, he's our robotics coach, and I even love that he said he uses the MIT videos on computer science for his job that he currently has. Like, he'll go on there and he'll learn from that for his current job that he has. And I think it's just a great lesson for our kids to know, too, how to use your resources even when you're not in school, to continue to learn and to continue to grow with what you do. So I thought that was a great example that Sam, you know, mentioned that he even uses those. So
I think we're on the right path. I think we just have to keep pushing hard.
Moving forward. Yep, moving forward. So,
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so what else we have?
Well, I can do a superintendent's calendar report.
Yeah, please
and
do.
Enrollment, if you pull out your pink sheet, a couple of meetings coming up. First of all, tomorrow night, Bureau 14 will be held at the Fairmont Airport, and I'm going to be taking Mr. Jerry Brooks with me as my guest, since, and by the way, Jerry did purchase an airplane over the weekend, and I did stop by his ground school flight class the other day, and to say hi to the students. But I thought it'd be nice to have him go out there, since it's at the airport, and we'll show off the airport a little bit. The Community Ed CER is going to have their monthly meeting on Thursday, September 13th at 12 noon. We're hoping to have a policy committee meeting on Thursday, September 20th at 4:30. And next week I'll be attending a tax levy workshop that's put on by Dr. Tom Melcher from the Minnesota Department of Education. That will be held in Mankato. Usually the business manager goes to that, or the superintendent, but I'll be taking Sue's spot there. And just an update, we have received a number of applications for the district business manager position. Only one, however, has extensive public school business management experience. But we have received 10, 15, 20?
Oh, wow.
20 applications, but like I said, only one has extensive public school business management experience. And I've actually invited that person to come and spend the day with us on September 25, which is also a school board meeting night. So he'll be coming by, and I'll take him to the elementary and the high school, and take him around the district office, take him around town, and also bring him to a school board meeting. It's not an official interview. It's just to kind of do a show and tell.
Job shadow?
It's job shadow. Very good. And then enrollment update, I sent the board last week just an electronic copy of where we thought we were. This is more of an update tonight. This is from today. And, we budgeted for 1,625 students this year, and we're actually serving 1,657. And we have 825 students enrolled in the kindergarten K through 6 and 832 at the high school. Our largest class of the high school, by the way, is grade 8 with 149 students. And then grade 11 is 146 and grade 12 is 140. Grade 9 is 142. The 10th grade is our smallest class right now with 121, and we have 134 7th graders. And the kindergarten, I'm pleased to point out that in the summertime, I was concerned about the number of kindergarten students we had coming, and we're hoping to get at least 100 kindergartner students enrolled. We actually ended up with 110. And the smallest class at the elementary is 96 first graders. And our largest class is our 5th grade class that has 142. And so they really do range. And I did distribute tonight to the board. You should have another 2-pager which talks about each individual elementary teacher and how many actual students are in each elementary teacher's classroom.
Good numbers.
If I was a parent, I am a parent, but if my children were in elementary school, I should say, they're not, they're in their 30s. But if they were, I'd love to have them here because we have some very nice class numbers for our elementary and pretty impressive, actually. So, any questions for me? Okay.
So, nothing,
I think that's about all we can do right now.
that's all we can
I
do.
can report on the bill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I can report on them.
Sure.
I can't make a motion. I mean, the bills will be paid, and it'll be just like we would through the summer months. The treasurer has the authority to, sign the checks and that to get those bills done, so. You have in your packet the transfers and wires. I really don't have anything there for you to, for information. It's just a total, of the week's, transfers and that occurred. And in our packet, just some of the things that are here that I just kind of questioned on. The Fairmont Awards, that was for engraving of some plaques. That was for trophies for the music department. And there is, let's see, that's more interesting. Check number 61-629, it's MHSRC/DIP. That's a defensive driving course. That's a 55 Alive class that we provide through the CER department for members of our community that are 55 and above. And when they do take the 55 Alive, they do get discount on their driving insurance. Check number 646 for Skyward. Was for 1,170 of that was for a 6-hour WebEx for student management to kind of how to run it, and then there's a project management that was the balance of that. Check number 649, Stoneware Incorporated. That's an annual software site license that includes maintenance and support for K-12 land school. And then one last thing, check number 651, Tina Jetty. And that was the purchase of some tables that are placed in the halls that will be used as part of a gathering learning space for our students. So just a little report on some of the things that we found there in our bills. So.
Okay, thank you. So, we will adjourn.
Yes, we will.
Well, I was going to ask, did you want to make one more attempt to try to reach one of the other board members so we could have a quorum and finish the business? Or
No,
do
I
we
would
want
say
to?
Are you planning to sing and dance until they get here?
No, we can take a
Thanks
recess.
for coming.
We can take a
Thank you.
recess. So then we'll just put it all in the next meeting.
We'll just have
everyone's
to
items.
add it to the, is there, do we need to have a special meeting for anything, or do you think we'll be okay till the next meeting?
Okay.
Hey, Kim and Andy? So,